Oh, I'd like to welcome everyone to the October 2nd hearings before the Baltimore City Municipal and Zoning Appeals Board. A few preliminary items. First, please turn off all cell phones, at least off to vibrate. And also, if you need to have a conversation, please take it out into the hallway. The reason being that cell phones and conversations not only are disruptive to the proceedings here, but they interfere with the mics. And as these proceedings are being recorded and also broadcast live, we'd like to keep those intrusions to the audio and video to a minimum. We don't have any postponements today. Generally, we're going to call the cases as they appear on our docket. When we call your case, please come up. The appellant will stand to my left. Anyone in opposition will stand to my right. The appellant will present his or her case. The opposition will have an opportunity to present the opposition's position, and then the appellant will have the opportunity to address what the opposition said, and that will end our case. We will vote on the appeals that we're hearing today at the end of the docket, and anyone who wishes to stay around and hear our deliberations certainly may. Otherwise, you can call the zoning office tomorrow and get our decision. The phone number is 410-396-4301, and I'll read that again, 410-396-4301. Please do not build in Baltimore City without the proper permits. The written decision of our board will be issued in about 2 weeks. I want to address situations where we have opposition. We have found that sometimes discussions between the parties can resolve differences, and we want to give the parties the opportunity to have that discussion. I do note, though, that while we encourage dialogue between the parties, the board will make its decision based upon the zoning code. And we have one case today for which opposition has signed in, and that is case 2018-273, 118 East 24th Street, Carl Nunn. And would the parties please just stand? You are? You're Mr. Nunn? Okay, and you're in opposition. Have you all had the opportunity to talk? No. Would you like to have the opportunity? Sure. All right, so why don't you guys go out and we'll see if you can get your issues resolved, and then we'll hear the case when you come back. All right, next we want to call cases for which the board has sufficient information to approve your appeal. I will call these cases all at once. Please line up starting at my left and down the dais in the order that I called your case. First case is 2018-310, 1000 to 1016 South Highland Avenue, Mark Manzo. Okay. Next is 2018-313, 1705 Covington Street, Patrick Jenkins. 2018-315, 3111 Barclay Street, James Notini, and I'm going to pronounce that wrong. Novotny. Okay. 2018-319, 1548 William Street, Adam Corballo. And 2018-320, 944 South Clinton Street, also Adam Corballo. 2018-322, we have three cases under this number: 31 South Payson Street, 1937 Holland Street, and 1939 Holland Street, George Klebb. Okay. And finally, 2018-328, 260 South Durham Street, Nate Prettle. Okay. Let's get everyone who is going to provide testimony sworn in.
Swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay. All right. First case is 2018-310, 1000 to 1016 South Highland Street. Mark Manzo. Are you Mr. Manzo?
Yes, sir.
Great.
Yes, I am Mark Manzo.
Thank you. And we have this to use portion of second floor known as 3315 Dillon Street as an office. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection to its approval. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Manzo, is there anything you'd like to add?
This is just going to be an office use with less than 2,500 square feet, so no significant traffic and no parking required.
Okay. The zoning board having reviewed your case, we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next case, 2018-313, 1705 Covington Street. Patrick Jenkins.
Yes, sir.
You, Mr. Jenkins?
Yes, sir.
Great. Mr. Jenkins, we have this to construct second floor rear addition. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Mr. Jenkins, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Great. The zoning board having reviewed your case, we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
2018-315, 3111 Barclay Street.
Oh.
And you're not Mr.
Novotny.
You are Mr. Devine.
No, not Mr. Novotny. I'm the homeowner, Chris Broom.
What's your name again? I'm sorry.
Chris Broom.
Okay.
Berman.
Broom, like sweep.
Okay. And Mr. Broom, we have this to construct two-story rear addition. Is that correct?
Yes.
Any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Just for the record, this is going to be living space. It's not, I'm not cutting this up into apartments or anything.
Okay. The zoning board having reviewed your case, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
2018-319, 1548 William Street, Adam Carballo.
Hello?
You're Mr. Cavallo,
Yes, sir.
and we have this to construct new third floor. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Mr. Cavallo, anything you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Zoning board having reviewed your case, believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. So stay there. We have 2018-320, 944 South Clinton Street, also Adam Carballo.
Yes, sir.
And we have this to construct two-story rear addition with rear garage bump out, correct?
Correct.
Staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Zoning board having reviewed your case, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
28-322, 31 South Payson Street, 1937 Holland Street, and 1939 Holland Street.
Yes, Lisa Statura, Stachura, representing George Klebb and Bon Secours.
Okay, and Mr. Turra, we have this to consolidate lots, construct additions, and use as community center. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application and recommends approval. Thank you.
Great. Anything you'd like to add for the record?
We've been working with the community for years to develop this project, and I believe there's a letter of support from concerned citizens of Boyd Booth on file.
Okay. Zoning board having reviewed your case, believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, 2018-328, 260 South Durham Street, Nate Prettle.
Good afternoon.
And we have this to construct a new three-story single-family row house with front-loading parking garage, correct?
That's correct.
Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this is an infill, which is requesting a garage front. The department therefore recommends approval of the application, subject to the condition that the proposed semi-detached single-family dwelling is completed in accordance with plans and architectural elevations approved by the Department of Planning. Thank you.
Great. And Mr. Prettle, do you agree with those conditions?
I do.
Great. Is there anything you'd like to add for the record?
Yes, I'd add that we've been working with the Upper Fells Point Improvement Association, presented at a meeting, as well as some of the adjacent neighbors. I believe an email or several emails were sent to the board within the last hour in support of the project. I also have Nick Lipperini, who's the owner and developer, as well as Shirley Skouras, who is a neighbor owning an adjacent property on Gulf Street. I believe she wanted to just put a few things on record about that.
Hi, Shirley Skouras, Skouros, and I live on 1800 Gulf Street. I'm at the corner of Gulf and Ann, so I just wanted to make sure that their elevation will have drainage onto Durham Street and not onto Ann Street, because I have concerns with my basement, with water damage and stuff like that. But that's fine. as long as
You're-
they drain.
You're satisfied?
Yes, as long as they drain, towards Durham, and that's what we're discussing.
We're not making
right now.
any representations as to drainage. You'll have to deal with that with the developer, but if you're okay, we'll move forward.
Definitely.
And we're committed to working with her on this.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank
Is that-
you.
Thank you.
Zoning Board, having reviewed your case, we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you. All right, next we're going to call the cases, and we're going to call them as they appear on our docket. First case is 2018-87, 1607 and 1609 Lawrence Street, Sue Ah Lee. Call that one more time. 2018-87, 1607 Lawrence Street and 1609 Lawrence Street, Sue Ah Lee. Next case, 2018-143, 1727 to 1729 West Lanvale Street, Anthony Francis.
How you doing?
Good. Let me get you sworn in.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You state your name for the record.
Anthony Francis?
Mr. Francis, we have this to use as restaurant and 2 dwelling units. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Great. Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, the Planning Department notes that this property is located in the Harlem Park 2 urban renewal area. This particular plan does have specific requirements regarding the exterior of the building and any possible redesign of that. The department is in support of this application and recommends approval, subject to the condition that all exterior alterations and signage for this use authorized for this property are completed or installed in accordance with the provisions of the Harlem Park 2 urban renewal plan. Thank you.
Great. And Mr. Francis, do you agree with those conditions?
I do.
Good. Tell us a little bit about your project.
I'm actually bought the building, I believe to have been operating for a decade as a corner store. I actually lived in the neighborhood for 10 years myself and decided to invest and buy the building and try to bring something viable to the neighborhood. Some people may know I live in an area that doesn't have a lot of to eat. It's considered a food desert. I'm also a food advisor for Baltimore City for my district. So I took it personally upon myself to try to provide ownership and jobs and food in my neighborhood by opening a farm-to-table or a garden-to-table restaurant in an area where most people, quite frankly, be afraid to do so.
Great. Any questions from the board?
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next case, 2018-283, 422 East Randall Street, Daniel Przbilski.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Let me get you sworn in, maybe 2 of you sworn in anyway.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. Would you state your names for the record, please?
My name is Bailey Jenkins. I'm the owner of 422 East Randall.
And I'm Dan Przbilski. I'm the previous owner of 422, or actually Blueprint Development was the company that owned it, but I was the owner of the company. So,
That name again first.
Daniel Przbilski, the applicant.
What was the rest of the statement? I couldn't hear.
I'm the owner of the company that previously owned the property.
Okay. And we have this to retain rear attached 1-story, 1-car garage. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do we have any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Okay. Walk us through the permitting process here. I know we've had a little bit of back and forth with this, but I'd like you guys just to walk us through what happened here.
We actually did get a permit to build the garage as it currently stands. That's really where we're at. We thought we were going through the right process. I believe it kind of maybe slipped through the zoning process, not intentionally by any means. We did feel like we were going through the right process, and now we're kind of doing the retroactive to kind of have it on record that 100% lot coverage. I think there was a 5 or 6 foot section between the old garage and the existing building that was filled in. That was the issue of some complaints and some things like that from neighbors. So, again, we did have a permit on file, and we did build.
And you built pursuant to the permit?
Correct, yes. And again, the permits were approved. We did have a complaint early on from a neighbor, and we did meet the inspector out there. We checked the footings, and we did, again, these are just kind of things that we've kind of confirmed that we were building within the existing structure.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
No.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to call two cases together, 2018-308, 4005 Borman Avenue, and 2018-309, 4009 Borman Avenue. Herbert Burgunder.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Herbert Burgunder here on behalf of the owner of the property. The owner is not able to be here. He's an observant Orthodox Jewish person, and it's a Jewish holiday.
And this is to use both of these properties as two dwelling units, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed these two applications, noted that each of these properties was previously authorized for use as a multifamily dwelling, and has no objection to the application for either property. Thank you.
Mr. Burgunder, the floor is yours.
So these two properties are both similarly situated. They were previously, and a long time ago, approved for two dwelling units. I have copies of the zoning card for each of the properties I'd like to enter into evidence as by way of a proffer. And the inspection date for the two-family dwelling units for 4005 is from 1955. And the inspection date, actually there's also an inspection in 1964, and then as well 1964 for inspection as two apartments for 4009. So I'd like to have those entered respectively as exhibits in the case. The properties also have, to the best of our knowledge, 2 meters. I'd like to enter into evidence a photograph that my client was able to take. You'll see the meters are not in very good condition, but on both sides are pictures of the 2 meters showing that the properties had 2 meters for purposes of 2 dwelling units. And the property is also similar to a property at 4007, which is actually the property right between them, which came before the board in a case earlier this year in July of 2018, and the board granted that request as well. So we'd like that to be entered into evidence as well. All these properties were built as 2 dwelling units and obviously have fallen into disrepair, and the idea is to bring them back to productive use. We would ask that the board would permit them to be grandfathered as predating the zoning code. And as well, in the alternative, I guess, if the board saw fit to grant a variance due to lot size, which is the violation cited in Mr. French's report, that could be varied. In addition, we'd ask for a variance for that to permit these 2 dwelling units to be put back into productive use.
Are these units vacant now, these 2 buildings vacant?
They are vacant now, yes. But the vacant housing notice is for both, or within the year.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Okay.
No.
Great.
Thank you.
Very much.
Excuse me.
Next case is 2018-311, 912 North Carey Street, Craig Lane.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jimmy Kalawale. I represent Dr. Lane.
Okay.
Jimmy Kalawale, and this is Dr. Craig Lane.
Yeah, I'm going to get the spelling, so I need it.
Jimmy, J-I-M-I. Last name is K-O-L-A-W-O-L-E.
Okay, let me get, your legal counsel?
Yes, sir.
Let me get you sworn in.
You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah, I do.
Great, and we have this as, to use as 2 dwelling units, is that correct?
That's correct.
Great. Do we have any staff reports?
Okay, thank you.
Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection to its approval. Thank you.
Okay. So tell us about this
Excuse
property.
me, Mr.
very
Chair,
shortly.
I'm sorry, just for the record, there is a letter from the Sandtown South Community Association in support of this appeal.
Okay, thank you. So similar to the last case we just heard, tell me a little bit about the history of this property.
Okay, I bought it at auction February 28th of this year. I think it was Alex Cooper Auction House was handling it for, I don't know which bank it was. It was already zoned for 2 units to my knowledge at that time, though, that the previous owner, they already had tenants and everything in the property. And then we learned later when I tried to do an eviction of the tenants that the occupancy permit wasn't there and that it was classified as a vacant property, so I had to reapply for the zoning because the occupancy permit is contingent on the zoning approval.
Do you have any documentation that can show us the prior history of this property?
I did call the legal department, and I did see the previous owner was trying to evict those tenants so that he could file for his occupancy permit. Hopefully I can grab it really quick.
And while you're looking, Mr. Baumgartner, do we have any history on this property?
Let me check.
I know that the previous owner, his name was Kelly Waters, and he's had ownership of the property for probably about 10 years. And I think the bank ended up foreclosing on it. I know that he went to New York because he had family illnesses that he went back to take care of a family member. But because I always saw tenants in there, I never thought there wasn't any, that the tenants were there legally and not illegally.
We see this a lot. Check before you buy.
Yeah, well, that was my first time buying at auction. I didn't know that they wouldn't let me walk through the property and see it. I just kind of I showed up and then I was the only person bidding there.
Dr. Lane does have a practice right across from the street from the property, which is one of the reasons why he wanted to.
Yeah, I'm at 911 North Carey Street, directly across the street. And I've been there for like 22 years.
So do you have anything that shows the history of this property as a multi?
Trying to find a document because I was sent by the legal department.
Mr. Chairman, we have records indicating there was a vacant house notice issued in 2008 and then again in July of 2018. And the city's parcel search, it's vague, but at one point in time, the property was authorized as 2 dwelling units, but the parcel search doesn't give a breakdown as to when. It just merely states that at some time it was authorized as 2 dwelling units.
Sorry. I'm sorry because I'm rushing. I can't put my hand on those documents. But I did speak to Inspector Bannister. He's the one that made me aware of the request for the occupancy permit. And then he put me in touch with the legal department, and I can't remember that attorney's name who gave me the actual history.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay, and we'll make you keep searching. Any questions from the board?
No.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Next, we'll have 2018-312, 2319 Maryland Avenue, LaToya Chavez. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Get you sworn in.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And you're Ms. Chavez?
I am.
And we have this use portion of this premises as a driving school classroom, correct?
Yes.
Great. Staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that the zoning administrator determined that this type of use is classified in the zoning code as an educational facility, commercial, or vocational. This happens to be a prohibited use in the OR1 or Office Residential Zoning District in which this property is located. Even though this property is within an area that may be rezoned in the near future to C1, the C1 zoning also would prohibit the same use, educational facility, commercial, or vocational, and therefore the department recommends disapproval of the application because the proposed use of the property is a prohibited use in the OR1 zoning district, and the zoning code does not authorize creation of new nonconforming uses, which a driving school would be in this office residential district. Thank you.
What does that mean, it may be rezoned?
There is a bill in the city council currently to rezone 3 blocks on the east side of Maryland Avenue, which would include this property from OR1 to C1. And that bill has been heard by the Planning Commission, which recommended approval of the bill, but our understanding is the bill has not yet advanced through the city council approval process.
Thanks.
Okay. Ms. Chavez, why don't you tell us about what you want to do, and also if you would address, if you can, the comments from the Planning Department.
Sure. So I would like to be granted permission to use this property as a partial driving school. We will not be using it for obstacle course. We do not need extra parking. It would not be a lot of traffic in and out of the school. This classroom only sets 30 people. So you guys know through the state of Maryland, you have to get the 30 hours in classroom in order to receive your license. So this is literally just a small room that kids will be taught 3 hours a day, twice a day, which is 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then 6 to 9 driver's education. We would like to hold the alcohol and driving improvement classes as well. Those classes may be taught like once a month. It's not something that we're trying to request to have different classrooms in. That's going to take up a lot of space. That's going to take up a lot of parking in the neighborhood, and nothing like that. Also, this community is pretty much very youth-oriented. There's a lot of youth facilities around, and I think that we'll fit right into that category. Upstairs from us is, well, upstairs from the classroom, that is, there's a church there that teaches the Bible 3 or 4 times a week. It's pretty much not the same thing as far as religion, or disrespect of religion, but as far as the learning concept, it's pretty much the same thing.
So in terms of the car part, being the students in the car, does your company do that at all?
We offer that service, but we do not need to do that nowhere near the facility.
So how would you, if you were to do that, how would that work? Do you actually have the students come out of the classroom and get into the car, or is that something separate?
So after they complete their 30 hours in the classroom, at some point in time, and that can be anywhere from 1 week to 18 weeks, that we could request them to come in and take their behind the wheel. That can be done in a park, in a parking lot. We could partner up with another school that already have a obstacle course. It's several ways that can be done, and I'll still be in meeting the state's requirements without having to use that particular area.
Okay.
I just need the classroom.
Okay.
Was the zoning bill introduced on your behalf?
Yes. And did I put in an application for it? Is that what you're asking? Yes.
No. You're asking about what Mr. French was talking about, a rezone?
Oh, no. That wasn't.
Just a zoning bill.
The bill was actually introduced at the request of the Community Association, as we understand it, the Old Goucher College Community Association, or Improvement Association.
Thank you.
But, Mr. French, I think I heard you say even if the bill passes, C1 would not allow educational facilities. Is that correct?
This type of educational facility, a commercial or vocational school, would still be a prohibited use in C1.
Okay.
So your company will have the cars that you give instruction on?
Mm-hmm.
And how many cars will you have?
One. And we have a parking, because it's a parking lot right out back of the property. But, yeah, we have a parking spot for that particular car.
Okay. Any other questions?
What's in the space now?
What's in what space now?
In the space now?
Well, it was originally an office space, and right now it's nothing. I'm trying to get zoned so I can start the driving class.
You said there's a lot of youth around. What is around that is attracting the youth? Is there a community center nearby?
It's several community centers right behind us on Charles Street. I introduced myself to about 3 community centers, and then right across from me on 23rd, there's a Youth Works program where young adults is sent to obtain jobs and get studies on how to do resumes and things like that, computer classes, GED. And it's I think that's on 24th. We have the mayor's office that helps job search and things like that. I'm not too familiar with their particular office that they have, but I know that they're there.
So just 2 more quick questions. So
Sure.
this is a new business for you. You haven't operated a business like this before?
I haven't.
Okay, and then the last question is, you haven't lined up where the driving test would happen yet? You just know?
So the driving test happens at motor vehicle. All we do is get them prepared for the driving test.
Where you would practice, you haven't lined up?
Oh, yeah, no. So motor vehicle requires us to have a route for them. And we would just have to send them a copy of the route. And most of
The route wouldn't be in this area?
the route wouldn't be in this area. No, it's other driving schools not on this block, but in the area. I doubt if they would use that area because it's so tight with the parking and everything. So what would happen is primarily we would either pick the kids up from home and just take them to a safe place, maybe Drew Hill Park or somewhere that is a public place that, don't have much traffic, and we'll just practice with them there.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next case is 2017-314, 3810 Norfolk Avenue, Hal Arnold. Good afternoon. Get you sworn in a second.
Chairman, is it 2018 or 2017, 314? Just make sure it's not.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's 2017-314, sorry.
I don't think so.
2018.
Yeah,
it's
on my data sheet, it says 2017.
Shouldn't say that.
Oh, wow. We have different sheets.
Oh, wait a minute. It says. That is a typo in the
That's
data
okay.
sheet,
That's
Mr. Chairman.
okay.
Yeah, it is 2018.
2018 is correct.
Right.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You do.
All right, before we get started, we have a preliminary issue, and that is a posting issue. We understand that the site was not continuously posted as it is required to by law, and in fact, Mr. Baumgartner viewed the property and saw that there was not a sign up.
I posted the property. I got pictures of it. I went past it a week ago. The sign was gone, but I got pictures. The sign was posted, and I went up to and gave him the thing said it was posted. I have pictures of the building when I posted the sign, because the building is a house in the middle of the block, and there's 2 doors there. The weird thing was it was like 2 guys standing on the porch when I went there, and I told him, I'm gonna take a picture. You want to be? He said, no, I want me to take a picture. He ran out there. So I mean, the picture, the sign was posted in the date of it was supposed to be posted, which I sent. And I got pictures of it. I don't know if somebody took the sign down. I'm not sure, but I do have pictures, and my picture would show the date of the posting.
We have a member of the community which contacted the board and submitted a photograph of the property that was not properly posted for the 21 continuous days. And as the chairman said, I drove past there yesterday at about 4 o'clock.
But I mean, I don't know what happened to the sign.
But the code requirement requires it to be continuously posted for 21 days before
So
hearing.
maybe somebody took the sign down.
Entirely possible.
Yeah, I got pictures of the sign though.
No, and we're not saying that you didn't post it. All we're saying
I know I
is
posted it because I got pictures.
But all we're saying is it wasn't posted.
So we got to reschedule?
We got to reschedule, yeah.
Okay, I got a small issue. They saying that they don't recommend because it's a R5 and you can't go to multifamily. If you look at the property, if you go on the block, you see all the houses there.
Well, we're not going to get into the merits of this
Okay.
case today.
So we have to file the appeal, and how do we know somebody's not gonna take the sign down? Because I don't know these cats around there.
Well, and again, I understand the issue that you're presented with here, but I mean, we can only follow the law, which
I know
says it
about
has
that.
to be
Yeah, that's
posted
what
for
it was.
continuously for 21 days, and we have information that it wasn't continually posted, so we really can't hear this case today.
So I gotta redo it, and then with the R5 issue, then I gotta figure out what to say about that.
Well, again, we're not getting into the merits.
So, Mr. Arnold,
Thank you.
you're not required to refile the application, but you would be required to repost for those 21 days. You're welcome to contact our office this week, and then we can reissue that posting notice and then get you back on the docket as soon as possible.
Go to the 14th floor?
Yep.
It is an R5.
Huh?
It is an R5.
I know it is. They're saying that they can't go from single family to two apartments in an R5. That's what the plan is, but then they said.
Again, we're not going to get into the merits of the case today. Okay. Next case is 2018-317, 930 North Carrollton Street, Jaron McCray. How are
Hello,
you?
good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Eric Stevenson, the owner of the property.
Great, we'll get you sworn in a second.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And we have this to use first floor as restaurant and second floor as 2 dwelling units. Is that correct?
Be the second and third floor for the dwelling units.
Second and third. Okay, staff reports?
We have a letter of support from District 9 Councilman Mr. John Bullock. His letter reads, "Please accept this letter as my support for the zoning appeal application for 930 North Carrollton Ave. This property will be used as a community-driven coffee shop. It's my hope that you will approve this project. I firmly believe that this project will strengthen the community and be an asset to the city of Baltimore."
Great. Mr. McCray, why don't you tell us about your project? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. The Department of Planning has reviewed this application, noted that it is consistent with the Sandtown Winchester Urban Renewal Plan, which covers this area where the property is located, and that the building itself qualifies for the proposed use. The plan may have some specific requirements concerning signage, which the applicant needs to be aware of. However, the department is recommending approval of the application.
Thank you. Thank you. So now, why don't you tell us about your project?
The building is currently vacant. It's a 3-story, approximately 3,000 square feet. I live at 926 North Carrollton Avenue, which is just 2 doors down. When I purchased my home at 926 in 2015, there were 3 vacant buildings left on what's otherwise really a remarkable block in West Baltimore. There's now 2 vacant buildings left, and 930 is one of them. I was able to buy it at auction earlier this year because no one else was interested in it, unfortunately. The plan, in terms of the neighborhood commercial use, the plan would be for a coffee shop. That's currently in demand in our community. It actually arose out of a conversation with Councilman Bullock that there wasn't anywhere in the 9th District for us to sit down for a meeting and have a cup of coffee. I'm committed to the revitalization of the community. I'm part of the Sandtown South Neighborhood Alliance, which is the community association in the area. I believe you received a letter just this morning of their official support. As far as the use of the building, I believe that the building it's been vacant for a long time, but I believe that it was previously as many as 4 dwelling units and additional rooming units. So this use would be a reduction in density and returning the property to productive use, which is critical for our community.
Do you have any history of the building, you having a commercial use?
So I went to the zoning office and I asked to see the zoning cards that predate their electronic system. And when what I found here, and I have copies as well, it appears to show the grocery store in that location up till about 1960. And then at that time is when it goes on to show the 4 dwelling units plus rooming units.
So is the neighborhood grocery store till 1960?
That's my interpretation of the card, yes.
You want to show me where on here? You see that?
This says 3 apartments and grocery. And then it looks like here in 1957 and 1960, there were applications to turn into additional apartments. My interpretation of that is that previously it had been a grocery. The planning department also makes mention of that in their letter.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, just for the board's information, the 1931 police survey is exactly what it sounds like. Police officers were tasked when the zoning code was originally drafted to walk to every building and ask the occupants what the building was for. And per the zoning card, per the testimony, it does say 3 apartments and a grocery, and we have nothing in the record to counter that. So.
Okay. Okay, great. Any questions from the board? No. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next case, 2018-321, 801 North Chester Street and 803 North Chester Street, Gregory Brown.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Okay. Well,
You got me. I say good morning.
I just came back from Los Angeles yesterday, so maybe I'm still on that time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so you're Mr. Brown?
Yes, sir.
Let me get you sworn in, first of all.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
And Mr. Brown, we have this to convert both spaces into 1 space for restaurant and 3 dwelling units. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Staff reports. And Mr. French, I won't ignore you this time.
That's quite all right. The planning department has reviewed this application, noted that this property that's proposed for use is actually 2 separate units, 801 North Chester Street and 803 North Chester Street. The property at the corner, known as 801 North Chester Street, is a building which could qualify for neighborhood commercial establishment. However, the building at 803 North Chester Street, adjoining it, is one that has, as far as the planning department's information is concerned, has never been used for commercial purposes and has not been visibly altered for commercial use. The department would note that there was a meeting, a pre-development meeting concerning this particular proposal a number of months ago, at which time the people who came in were advised of this problem, that 801 would be a building in which a neighborhood commercial establishment could locate, but 803 would not be, and that they might face an issue with this. However, that said, the department is recommending approval of the portion of the application relating to the property known as 801 North Chester Street only. The department recommends disapproval of the portion of the application relating to 803 North Chester Street because that property at that address does not qualify for use as a neighborhood commercial establishment, as it was not originally constructed or altered and used for non-residential use, and its exterior has not been substantially altered for commercial use either, we note. Thank you.
Great. Anything else? Great, thank you. So you've heard from the planning department. Tell us about your project, and if you could address points made by planning, that would be very helpful for us.
Sure, it's no problem. So we currently own a restaurant here in Baltimore called the Land of Kush. It's a vegan soul food spot. We're located 840 North Utah Street. This would be a second location for us. So basically what we're looking to do is to tear down both properties because there's significant damage, especially buckling to the 801 property. We're looking to tear both down and build them back up and create an entirely new space for the restaurant. The reason for both spaces is because currently we have about the size of that 801 Chester Street is what we currently have, and we do not have enough space for what we have now. We often get requests from people, not only locally, but people who come from out of town visiting the city to have meetings in our space, and we just cannot accommodate that. And so that's part of the reason for a larger location. What I handed to you all was a letter from Harbor Bank. Tiffany Royster, who's the vice president for their Community Development Corporation. Harbor Bank actually renovated the 8 row houses in that block, and they actually came to us for the idea for this project because they're familiar with us. We do decent business. We do a lot of stuff for the community. We hire from within the community, and we're hoping to extend that practice once we get over to East Baltimore. We conduct several projects where we give out free produce to the community every Monday. Every Monday in front of our current location, we give out free produce. And we're just looking to brighten that neighborhood up with something a little bigger and better than what we currently have.
What I'd like you to do is address the points made by the planning department about the expansion into the second unit. But before you do that, I want to mention to you that if you tear down the building, you may lose your ability to have this use under the neighborhood commercial establishment because the neighborhood commercial establishment building won't be there anymore. And I'm going to ask Mr. Baumgartner if you would talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Sure. So neighborhood commercial establishment was a tool that was created and added to the current zoning code to allow vacant, sometimes corner, but sometimes mid-block properties to kind of come back to life with, but the requirements would be that either their original use or construction was for non-residential or otherwise commercial properties, or that there was a prior lawful use of that property for non-residential purposes. Part of neighborhood commercial, it has limiting language that says that any use under neighborhood commercial has to be within an existing building. There's not a whole lot of more precision given to that, but the code says that these uses are limited to existing buildings. So the chairman is correct that if you were to raise a building, it's no longer existing. So there would be a very large question is if you could get any type of commercial use back into that building ever if it were torn down. Now, if there are public safety issues, if there's water damage, if there are things that need to be done to that building to make it safe and habitable, I would recommend reaching out to the zoning administrator as well as to the permits office and the building code folks to see what can be done to stabilize a structure or to repair a structure without raising it so that it would lose that ability to return to commercial use.
We did look at that as far as myself, the architects and the contractors. We've been speaking with the contractors who renovated the previous houses in that block, and there was just a concern that by trying to fix something that's kind of significantly broken, to use lack of a better term, there may be repairs that go on in the future. Now we would be keeping pretty much the front facade. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with what you're saying, but we would keep the front portion of it and build up the rest of it. So that's kind of what we were looking at. We thought about just trying to do it as is and just trying to renovate what it was, but there's some issues that's going on internally and externally to the properties that kind of would make it much better and a much more stable project for a longer period of time. So that's
Again, I just wanted to make sure you were aware of this issue, and you know,
Yes.
it's not something that we're going to resolve today in terms of degrees, whether they leave a front facade up, does that satisfy it or not? But we just want to make you aware of the issue.
Sure, absolutely.
So if you could address the expansion part now.
So, I mean, the expansion part into 803 again, what we were looking at is that the fact that our current location, it's a small space, and that's what we would have if we only had that corner spot, the 801. And so we're trying to expand it to the 803, which would give us much more spacing, a much prettier facade for the neighborhood. And it gives us the opportunity to do a couple of things as far as, allowing community associations to have meetings there. We met with several or two of the community associations in that area who seem to be on board. We also have the support of the city councilwoman in that area, Shannon Sneed. So we're just looking for a bigger space than what we currently have so that we can do a little bit more. The Land of Kush has brought several things to this city. Well, we had Stevie Wonder in our location, so just to throw that out there. But we bring things to the community such as the Vegan Soul Fest, which brought 12,000 people to Baltimore, East Baltimore this year. We just do a lot of community projects, and where we're located, we can only do but so much, so we'd like to extend what we do into East Baltimore.
Yeah, and I understand what you need and the good you've done. Our issue is we don't believe we have the legal authority to expand from one building that is qualified for a neighborhood commercial establishment to a building that is not, and that's our legal hurdle, and that's what I was asking you to address, just the legalities.
I'm not really sure how to address the legality of it, if there's another way around it.
You would have to tell us.
Okay. That's something I would have to research because I'm very unfamiliar with the process. It's my first time, ever going through this process. So I'm not sure of, what legal options we have to get the 803 converted as well.
Well, let me throw this out to you. If you would like to postpone this hearing to do some more research,
sure,
we would be willing to grant that.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is 2018-324, 3126 East Baltimore Street. Eden Sandoval. You, Mr. Sandoval?
Yes.
Great. We'll get you sworn in a second.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Ma'am, what is your name for the record?
Stacy Teal Locust. I'm his real estate broker.
Okay.
Teal-Locust. I'm his real estate broker. My sticker keeps falling off my shirt.
That's okay. And we have this to use first floor for a beauty salon and boutique, continue second floor as 2 dwelling units. Is that correct?
Correct.
Great. Staff reports?
Letter from Patterson Park Neighborhood Association saying that they have reviewed the plans and have been in correspondence and communication with the applicant, and that they are excited to support this appeal.
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this particular property has a record of use for various commercial purposes since 1931 or earlier, including a confectionery, a barber shop, a gift shop, an art gallery, and a custom tailor shop. The department therefore considers the building eligible for consideration for a neighborhood commercial establishment and recommends approval of the application. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so why don't you tell us what you're going to do here, what you'd like to do here?
Okay, I'm his realtor. The goal is when we're in the process of buying this property, and in our attempt to purchase it, it was marketed as a commercial property, but through research, the lender realized that it wasn't. It still had some residential zoning. Now, the structure of the building is a commercial. We wanted to keep the residential upstairs on the second and third floor. However, on the first floor, we wanted to take advantage of the structure of the building, which is the first floor front is the commercial, and there's an additional second unit in the rear. They both have doors, and there's also a separate door that go upstairs to the residential. So the goal here is to petition you to allow us to use the use that the property is already structured as.
Okay, tell us about the boutique use. What are you planning there?
It's like the accessories for for just women, but not too much, because it's like the beauty salon more.
His wife is a salon, is a beautician. They have an existing salon on Broadway. And I have photos. I don't know if the pictures are admissible, but on your cell phone. But it's just an open space where they're going to have the exposed brick walls. In the front will be a beauty for hair and nails, but in the rear, their focus is for lashes and brows, because the smaller space is the rear space. But it's just what he expressed and Anna expressed to me, that their hours of operation would normally be before 6 p.m. ending. It's a by appointment only type of salon or spa, so there's not a lot of walk-in traffic that they're marketing towards.
Okay, in the rear, so then the boutique part is not something where you're going to be selling things?
No, 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 no.
It's services, is
Yes,
that correct?
sir. It's strictly service.
Okay.
So is that effectively a continuation of the salon
Yes.
features?
And I think we're using the word boutique kind of suggests that you can purchase. It's a beauty brow, no Botox, nothing like that, like spa-wise, but different types of services.
Okay. Any questions from the board? No. Great. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is 2018-325, 3827 Falls Road, Andy Lee.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And you're Mr. Lee?
I am.
Okay.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And Mr. Lee, we have this to use portion of first floor for amusement arcade as accessory to coffee shop. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Great. Do we have staff reports?
Sorry.
Take your time.
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted some specific question concerning the properties themselves, 3825 and 3827 Falls Road, which would be the two properties that would be used for this purpose. The two properties currently are separate. The property, in fact, was a subject of a previous proposal, the board may recall, for a cat cafe. This idea was that there would be a cafe operated in one of the two buildings, and in the other building would be the adoption area for cats. The cafe or coffee shop part has continued, and now the proposal is to have an arcade in that next door building. The issue that the planning department is concerned about is the fact that the arcade will still have a direct entrance to Falls Road, or accessible entrance from Falls Road, and there will only be, according to the floor plan that was sketched with the application, one door passing between the two buildings. Therefore, the department was uncertain how the arcade is going to function as accessory to a coffee shop under those circumstances. That said, however, the department is recommending approval of the application, subject to the clarification of the floor plan, and on the condition that 3825 Falls Road is consolidated with 3827 Falls Road prior to commencement of interior work to create the accessory amusement arcade. Thank you.
Great. Anything else?
So you're claiming it can't be accessory because there's two doors?
Well, let me put it this way. The issue we saw was that with two exterior doors at 3825 and 3827, it would be possible for the arcade to function at a time that the coffee shop was closed. And we were concerned that there was nothing in the application that indicated any restriction on the hours of operation of the arcade in relation to the coffee shop.
How about if there was a single door in the coffee shop and then an opening into the arcade from the coffee shop?
Well, obviously, if people could only get to the arcade through the coffee shop, then that would not be an issue.
All right.
I'd love to address that.
I'd like you to address all that. I'd also like to tell us the square footage that you anticipate for each use.
Square foot anticipated for each use, a little bit more on the coffee shop side with administration and record keeping and storage and so forth. So roughly 1,000 square feet and about 700 square feet for the arcade portion, maybe a little bit less than that. Okay.
Floor is yours.
I appreciate it. So I believe I can address the main concerns, and I could also give you a background on the project. But I'd like to submit just some drawings of, I only have 3, I do apologize, of the rough sketch layout. I am a potential leasee. I have not signed a full lease yet. So I wanted to generate some initial drawings and sketches. We're working with an architect to do full drawings and permits and so forth. My initial plan on this is absolutely to only have one entrance into the facility. The other one will just be an emergency exit or whatever the regulations require. I do not want people coming in and out of the arcade just by itself. They have to come in through the coffee shop. Also, to give a issuance here, these are my bags of coffee that we can submit as well too. Coffee Kid is the name of my business with emphasis on coffee. Coffee is going to be 99.9% of my revenue, and hence I don't want anyone to go in through the arcade. It will only be open when the arcade is, and when the coffee shop, so the arcade will only be open when the coffee shop's open. Each bag of coffee is about $13. A cup of coffee is going to run you $2 to $5, $6, depending on the type of coffee. Arcade games are around 25 cents a piece. These are old school Pac-Mans and pinballs, nothing super crazy. The city of Baltimore, I believe, is $180 plus 10% revenue on each arcade game, plus electricity. I'm not going to make any money if, in my initial estimates, it's going to be an accessory, a draw to the coffee shop portion. I want something that will get people to the community, get kids, a family-friendly environment. Students, Johns Hopkins is very close to there, and just people that grew up with arcades. So my primary revenue source, almost predominantly, is coffee.
How many machines are you anticipating?
Anywhere from 15 to 25, depending on the rotation that I have. I have about 100 machines in various locations that I've been collecting through my time in the military to right now. And I will lease this as one entity, not as 2 different entities, but it's only going to be one location is the lease plan right now.
Well, I think there's a difference between that and consolidation as the planning department. Consolidation is a legal coming together of the 2 lots, which is a process you'd have to go through.
Right. Do not want to, we do not want to have additional door at all into the coffee shop. Whatever is the best way to accomplish that, we will. I just want one pass-through, as you can see in the drawings, between the coffee shop and arcade.
And this is this all owned by one entity?
It is. It's Jeremy Landsman's the owner. Also can let you know I have, within the last hour, I've gotten email support and verbal support from business owners and community members of the area that are up and down the block as well too. I have Julie, I can submit that as well too. I believe I did. Oh, it's right here. Julie Linfield, she did submit an email. I turned off my phone, or I would have brought that as well too. She submitted a letter of support, as well as the manager for Wicked Sisters, which is right there. And then Lou Catelli is a community advocate as well. Spoken with him. They're all recommending this as well.
Mr. Chairman, the board's prior appeals for this one, for the Cat Cafe, I believe there was a request to consolidate in that appeal, and it looks like there's a permit filed or a request filed in 2017 to consolidate lots. I don't know if that's been completed yet or that was finalized, but there's just some indication that there's been an attempt to consolidate lots. We just don't know where that is.
Okay.
What are your proposed hours for the coffee shop?
Proposed hours, depending on how we're going to see the customer base, but about I want to get the early risers 05-ish to, and predominantly that's all going to be coffee, 05 to maybe 9 on the weekends, 9 p.m.
9 p.m.
Right.
So your expectation is the customer comes in, gets a cup of coffee, and then goes next door to?
That would be great. Either that, they can get a cup of coffee. That's a main throughput. There's a little bit of parking that they can just get it and go. Or if they want to hang out and enjoy a cup of coffee, they think they're going in for 25 cents, but they can really enjoy a cup of coffee and that 25 cents.
Okay. Any questions?
Nope.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's go back and we'll call one more time, 2018-87, 1607, 1609 Lawrence Street, Suha Lee. And 2018-273, 118 East 24th Street, Carl Nunn. I believe they were outside talking at the beginning of the hearing.
My apologies, Mr. Chair. They did tell me that they were going to postpone
Okay.
to have an opportunity to work together with the community.
Gotcha.
Which one was that?
2018-273. And I believe that concludes our docket for today.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to
Yes. Did I miss one?
make a statement for the record.
Yeah.
With reference to the Coffeecade, sir, you indicated that the owner is Jeremy Landsman. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
He's a prior client, so I'll recuse myself.
Thank you.
And don't forget your coffee.
Yep.
Okay.
So you have to take the coffee.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Sadly.
Did we miss one?
I don't know. Did I miss one?
328?
Right at the end.
Yeah, that was
Did
consent.
we already do one?
That was
Okay,
consent.
okay.
Okay, we're concluded. We're off the record.